We made it through almost all of the day. Note, this is the last talk in this room. The last talk in the BIM section will be in the other room. Let's be, again, a discussion, and we'll do it in the cafeteria over in the main building. So, our next talk, or let's put it the other way, our next speaker, during his daytime, he is orchestrating Ruby to assemble electronic devices, which is, I think, pretty different from what at least I do every once in a while. Oh, we get a big bunch here. Sure, it's fine. We like to wait for you. 2 minutes after official start.
I need some backbenchers.
Okay, so again, our next speaker, in his job time, he likes orchestrating Ruby to assembly electronic devices, and in his free time, he likes to fumble with political issue around this. So, give a warm welcome to Patrick.
Any one of you heard about fritzing? That's quite a lot, considering that we mostly have software engineers around here. Anyway, for everyone else, I will give a short introduction on what fritzing is, but this comes later. So a short note about me. My name is Patrick, I'm 27 years old. If you would like to contact me, use Twitter, because Instagram is more for pictures of me in my mirror. I'm the co-founder of the ISA group, and what we do is whenever you need electronics manufactured, like printed circuit boards and stuff, we are the company to do this, and all our software in-house is pure Ruby, except for maybe a few C extensions, but this is 99.9%. And I said 100%. Anyway, so this talk is really not a technical talk, because all the issues we faced with these applications were pure political. And this makes it even more interesting, because I figured that a lot of applications or open source projects, let's say it's this way, struggle not because of technical problems like missing developers, but more of the whole organization of an open source project. So let me give you a really brief introduction to fritzing. So fritzing is a CAD application. So CAD applications, you probably know this is about drawing stuff, no matter if it's mechanical, architecture, or electronic stuff on your PC. And fritzing in particular is used for drawing electronics. And it focuses on the group of hobby users, and especially when it comes to hobby users, software engineers. So it's really friendly for software engineers to get into electronic engineering using this application. It was initially founded by the University of Potsdam, and this is also interesting because the University of Potsdam is a practical university with no electrical engineering background. So this was the whole focus of fritzing, to bring this electrical engineering stuff to artists, software engineers, creative people. So whenever you see light installations in some museum, it's pretty likely that these were made with fritzing. So what do you use it for? This is a project I did on my own. You have some rough wiring with Raspberry Pi and Arduino and stuff, and in this particular example, I have an RFID reader. I fiddled this together on my desk, and now I want to somehow professionalize it. How do I professionalize it? I put everything together on a printed circuit board. A printed circuit board is something like I have here, and to draw these things, you need an application like fritzing, which is used to translate over the rough wiring, to document it, over to a printed circuit board. So the explanation for fritzing on Wikipedia is this, which I really like, because it states that it supports designers and artists. This is something completely different to, let's say, software engineers. Because what fritzing is not good for is designing the next iPhone. This will never ever happen. Fritzing is really for all the stuff like I have a doorbell, and when the doorbell rings, I want to have a short message on my phone. All this stuff where just rough components of electronic magic gets connected to each other, so that's it. Because of this, fritzing got really popular when it comes to documentation in books, because it's visual. It's not just CAD, basic CAD, it's visual. So you can imagine how something looks like in the end. And this is really important for non-electrical engineers. And because of this, till today, it has 200,000 active users. I know this because the application has some Google Analytics integrated, and I have access to this account. And it really has, every month, 200,000 unique users, which I think is really, really a lot, considering the niche we are talking here about. So I asked myself, what is this application really missing? Because, let's skip this one. We have an issue. Exactly, we have 1,103 open issues. And the last release was like nearly 3 years ago. And the release previously was another 3 years ago. So the development of the application stalled completely, which I think is really a pity, because in less than a year it will completely stop working because of dependencies which are not fit anymore. So why am I concerned about this? Because my company pays fritzing every month a shitload of money to support it, and exactly for the last 3 years nothing happened. So I asked myself, this company, fritzing, let's call it a company, or this open source project, has users, which is really important to motivate developers. It has developers. You see there are 21 open merge requests. It got money. So what is missing here? By the way, I think for open source projects, you always need at least a bit of funding, because sometimes you have tasks where no open source developer would like to work on, because these are really shitty tasks. And then you can just get a freelancer on board, maybe get a bit of discount for the freelancer because he's able to do some open source work too, and then just let this do a freelancer. Or you need like money for let developers travel to a conference to give a talk about this application. It's really important because of this, I think open source applications need users, developers, and at least some funding. Good thing is, fritzing got a lot of funding. Because when it comes to doing like these electrical prototypes, we're talking about manufacturing here. And manufacturing is never for free because it's something physical. So what, for example, my company does, it gives a share of every order which goes through fritzing to fritzing itself, which is enough to pay like half a developer's salary, considering German salaries, each month. And we also have part and integrated circuit manufacturers which do promotions within this application. So there is, compared to other open source applications, a lot of income streams which can be used to fund the further development of this application. So you may ask yourself, what the fuck went wrong here? Because users, developers, funding. And like a year ago, I checked, okay, where does the money go and where do the developers belong to? And what I figured is really interesting, and this is something you have to make sure never happens to an open source application. It was split into two, not companies, but Xeron on the left side is a private company held in Germany. Xeron on the bottom right side is a public association in Germany. And what happened here is that the rights for the name, fritzing, like the brand itself, and the infrastructure on the web is held by the fritzing UG, but the source code, which is GPL, is held by the public association. And this is some kind of a deadlock situation we have here, because the funding goes to the UG, but the UG doesn't provide anything to the developers, because it only holds the trademark, not the source code. So it's not actually interested in putting any funds over from the UG over to the public association. And this applies the other way around too, because the public association is kind of slowed down because it's not able to do anything with the brand without getting the permission from the UG first. And this, because of this, we got the situation where no one really felt comfortable with working on this application anymore, because the UG could deny to use the brand at every second. So if they decide, no, we don't feel well with this project anymore, they could just pull off the brand, and that's it. It's dead in a minute. And because of this, a lot of developers felt uncomfortable with working on this anymore. Besides this, all the money from my company goes to the UG for 2 years, and I have no clue what they are doing with this. I said maybe strippers and hookers, no idea. At least no development at all. So people approached me because, like, my company is the only company left you can talk to. These Fritzing UG people are not really responsive. They are in Berlin, by the way, if you want to give them a visit. So a lot of people said, okay, let's fork the goddamn thing. And I'm not really a friend of a fork. Why? I think most of the user base will stick to the original Fritzing. So when we do a fork, we are not able to take the name with us because the name belongs to the UG, so they will probably sue us in a minute. So a fork would need to have a different name, and I have no clue how to get the users we have right now over to the fork, because most of them are probably quite happy with the application like it is. It's a fat client application, so once you have installed it on your Windows XP machine, it will run for years. So most of them will never ever move. And because of this, I think no one will jump on this train. And some people suggested a fork like develop it brand new, which I think will fade in minutes. So because of this, I said, no, I will never ever support a fork of this application. But what I said, if we are able to come up with a new community manager and somehow convince the original team that this community manager is independent and like they merge the public association with the private held company, then I would sponsor half of this project manager to maybe get it working. I held this talk 3 months ago at the FOSDEM. You know FOSDEM, some open source conference over in Brussels. And this was like, I said, okay, let's give this a try to maybe convince a few people to join this project and to find at least one responsible person as a maintainer. And now I'm really happy to see or present you what happened after this. So just recap for a second. So we have this application which is there, which works pretty fine considering all the users are in, but it needs some complete restructure, at least from the legal perspective. So what I did, shout out to the community, and a conference like FOSDEM is great for this because you have a lot of developers there which are really avid when it comes to open source. And this presentation until the slide was what I showed at FOSDEM. So let's see what happened. This was the issue I opened up on GitHub. And I think when you do something on an open source project, it's really important to combine it with a talk like this to just show everyone could open up an issue like this. And this was opened up before. But you have to somehow give the people a reason that this is really the kickoff for something new. And a talk at a conference is absolutely brilliant for something like this. So 163 people joined in. There was a lot of discussion which was really technical. which I had to slow down a bit because before we can jump on what are the technical issues, we have to make sure that the foundation itself is in a proper state. Otherwise, all that technical discussion will fade away. That's a waste of time. And this was on the 4th of February. And you're probably not able to read this. Anyway, this was 29 days ago from today, because I took the screenshot like today at noon. And we were able to find a maintainer from Berlin, which is really perfect because he is close to the original developers. And he was already able to contact the original founders and the people behind the public association and the private held companies. He was able to get all at one round table, and he convinced them that this project, or that the two legal entities of the project, has to be merged. And they agreed on this, and now the lawyers are already working on this. And he also set up a public roadmap, and now the project really got traction. So this is another screenshot. The issues got down a bit. He's working on this. It's just 200 issues, but man, it's 200 issues less. And you see 4 days ago, 7 days ago, 7 days, 6 days, it's really doing great here. So the conclusion I would like to make is whenever you notice there is an open source project, and I'm not talking about some technical library here, that might be a different thing, but I'm talking about an open source application which is used not only by the developers itself. This is really important because it's a complete different situation. So if you have an application which is heavily used by a lot of users worldwide, and which somehow finds to struggle any traction in its development, go to a conference and prepare a talk for this. And maybe during this talk, make some bold statements to the original creators, because you somehow have to trigger them to do something. So be really bold, say, hey, what you're doing is shit, not only for the community, but for the developers too, because there are people who would like to help you out, but you have to get this project straight first. And this is totally your task. You came up with the application. In this case, it was a university, so even more complicated. Now please make sure that you hand it over properly, even so you don't get any public funding on it anymore. So this is my humble opinion on this, and I hope you were able to take a few hints with you. Thank you. So I said I wouldn't do public Q&A, but we have some time left. Maybe, yeah, like 10 minutes. You have a question over there.
Thank you. I really enjoyed that. Can you give us an insight, I don't know if you know, into what happened in that room when the business entity and the public association came together, and what was said to convince them? Was it a hard sell or not?
We have to take a look at the initial discussion. So we had a roundtable before, which was my company and the Fritzing UG. And previously, we tried to somehow buy this company in. This is a complete situation where you negotiate against each other. Never ever do this. Don't start some negotiation about prices and terms and stuff. This is just wrong. You will never ever get to a result which helps at least one of these parties. The situation at this roundtable was completely different. We had an independent maintainer who said, okay, I want to help this project out and I have time left. Me as an Eisler, we were not at this roundtable. We were more like an advisor. So the situation was completely more like free, I would say. So you sometimes have to reset all the discussion and then start from a really beginning. Does that answer your question? welcome. Someone else. Okay.
And so now this new maintainer gets paid basically what you pay to say you pay for half salary, or is the UG sharing this part of money, or is he working for free? Can you repeat the question?
So who is paying for the project maintainer now? This is essentially the question. I'm paying for half the salary, which of course is not enough because it's just half the salary. And I want to have someone to work full time on this. Because as soon as you have someone really dedicated to this project, there are no excuses anymore. No matter how painful the tasks are, if you are a full-time maintainer of such an application, no excuses, you have to do what you have to do. This is, I think, really important, because if you have someone who does this in his or her spare time, there are always excuses, like, oh no, right now I have some other work to do. So we are looking for ways to fund full salary, and this is something I facilitate a bit, and getting more of these part and integrate circuit developers on board, because these really benefit from having their parts in the library of Fritzing, so that developers can use these parts. This is kind of like if you look for something you can compare in software engineering, like a company which provides you with library to use their service. But then that doesn't really matter. So, but yeah, I think with both these, let's call them sponsors, we should be able to get a full salary, and I'm looking forward to do this.
What do you think of the new GitHub open source funding feature?
Good point. Yeah. There was an, so GitHub just released an open source funding which is kind of similar to what Patreon does. Okay, what do I think about this regarding this project? There was something like this before at the public association, like crowdfunding. I have no clue where this money went. So these people are really bad in managing any funds. To do this, we have to make sure that the merge of these both entities is properly done, so that we have a responsible person for this. Because I really do not want to disappoint anyone again regarding the money. So yeah, but if we done this, like if we got the foundation working, then definitely good point. Thanks. One more? Yeah.
Do you know why it was split in these two entities?
I think the initial reason, why was it actually in the first place split into two entities? I guess this is a political issue because it is a spin out of the university. And I guess because there was public money involved, you have to make a public association out of this. So they wanted to have a company, a private health company, to get all the private money in as sponsoring and stuff. And they wanted to have, like the private company can sell stuff, which is not allowed at the public association. So besides this, they set up a public association. I think in general, in the first place, this is not such a bad idea, but it has to be managed properly. Like having the same people at the advisory board, same people at the UG, same people at the public association. Then it might work. All right, so that's it. Thanks for having me here. So, if you are interested, give Fritzing a try. If you ever want to do something with electronics and end up with a few circuit boards, by the way, I have a few with me, so you can take a look at them. These are made with Fritzing, by the way. Give it a try. It's a great application. Thanks.
Yeah,
all right.
Thanks for enlightening us with this story. That was pretty interesting. So we also got a little speaking gift for you. I think you're the perfect gift for this. You're the perfect receiver for this. Yeah. So have fun, and maybe tomorrow you can show off what you built.
No
pressure. Cool. So again, this is the last talk in this room.